Welcome on into a live edition of Falcons Today. Appreciate everyone for tuning in to yet another show. We've got a lot of fun stuff planned out, though. We're going to talk draft, of course. We'll talk about trades within the draft. We're going to look at Mel Kiper's new 2-round mock draft, see who we had Atlanta taking at 8 and 43. So a lot of ground to cover on today's show. But first things first, I do want to hear from everyone watching right now. Shout out your city for me in the chat. Get in the comment section. Rep your town, rep your area code, and let me know where you are tuning in from as we let the audience build up and everyone click on the notification. I've got Archangel in the chat. Archangel, I hope you enjoyed this morning's video. I like doing those types of videos. Call it, the morning video was the NFL player comps for Atlanta's top 5 draft targets. And I really enjoy making those types of videos because I get to really talk about X's and O's and whatnot. The only kick in the nuts is the YouTube analytics for those types of videos are never as good as like the fun rumors. And rumors are fun. I mean, who doesn't enjoy talking about trading for a star player here and there? But like, I don't know. I just selfishly wish that the like hardcore like football tape videos did just as well. But not always.
It was a great idea, Archangel.
Yeah.
That one got me.
It was a great idea. I enjoyed making it. I really did.
I mean, me and Petey talked about it, I think, like 30 minutes after the live show ended last Thursday, something like that.
Yeah.
So, great idea.
Excellent idea. Ty Man, the Buckeyes watching from Ohio. Let's see. Carson is here. Good to see you, man. I've got Mexico in the chat. Thomasville, Georgia. ATL, of course. Jackson is in Harvey, Montana, I think. I know someone from, is this the Harvey, Montana that's like right by the Canadian border? My old roommate's girlfriend was from there, and she was an interesting lady. We'll put it that way. Victoria, Texas. Idaho's here. Canton, Georgia. Noonan, Georgia. Sumner, South Carolina. Spartanburg, South Carolina. College Park, Georgia. Aurora, Colorado. ATL from the Doggist. Ron, Georgia born, Atlanta raised, in Dallas, Texas now. Ron, that's where we are. Chat Sports headquarters, Dallas, Texas. Patrick is in Memphis. I've got Minnesota, only Falcons fan in school. If you were a couple years older, you would not have been a very popular man in Minnesota for a playoff game about 2 decades ago or so. Austin's in Lexington, Kentucky. Austin, are you a Kentucky fan? As a Tennessee alum, I am thoroughly enjoying the potential meltdown that Big Blue Nation's going to have when they don't hire the coach of their dreams. I just got notification they are checking out the BYU head coach. I feel like Kentucky fans are just going to blindly assume we are better than that, and it's going to be really fun to watch unfold online. So I'm looking forward to that. Jason Greenway is in sunny San Diego. I got Chatsworth, Georgia here. Austin, sadly, I am a Kentucky fan. Go Vols, but I don't know what's going to happen there in Lexington. I feel like there's going to be... I'll tell you what I want to see happen. I want Kentucky to make a hire, and then I want the fan base to revolt so badly that they peer pressure and bully the administration to undo the hire. I want the coach to be on the plane and for the PJ to turn around mid-flight because they did not get the support they were looking for online. Okay, are we ready to kind of move on here a little bit? It is the Masters, so I do want to get your take and your opinion on who do you think will win the Masters. It's just so fun to say the words Tiger. Yeah. I don't know how he was able to coin such like an iconic animal like that to himself, but like just, come on, Tiger! Like that is the best thing to say in sports. Yeah, that's a top 5 thing to say in sports. 100%. Every single time he hits the ball. And that's just the best. That's what the Masters is for me. Just come on, Tiger.
Yeah. I think there's certain people just in sports, like across all sports, whether it's football, basketball, golf, whatever, right? If you're known as by one name.
Oh, that's the best.
That's when you're elite. But like Tiger holds a different elk over everybody else. Like the fact that it's Tiger, it's truly, like you hear that name, you instantly think of the greatest golfer any of us have ever seen.
I've got John Rahm in the chat. I mean, I always just pull for the Americans. Like that's just step one for me when it comes to the Masters. I'm a big Jordan Spieth guy.
Same.
Well, I like Spieth a lot. Yeah. Scotty though is 4 under, and Bryson DeChambeau 7 under to lead the pack. Really, really impressive. New York course record for Bryson. We do have a mailbag coming up later on in the show, so get those questions in right now. #Falcons, or you can super chat. If you super chat, you skip the line. We guarantee your question gets on screen for all of our thousands of viewers to see. So if there's a burning question or a comment or a take you have, and you want to support the show in the process, super chat's greatly appreciated, but no pressure whatsoever. If you want, just go #Falcons in the live chat, and producer Cullen will pick his favorite questions. So, with that being said, we are going to get into the nuts and bolts of this edition. We're going to talk about draft trade ideas. I thought you guys might enjoy a segment where we break down the possibility of Atlanta moving up and Atlanta moving back in the NFL draft. And then we're going to look at Mel Kiper's 2-round mock draft, see what picks he had for the Falcons at 8 and 43, and then that mailbag we just talked about. So all that and more coming up on today's show. If you have not liked the video yet, please do so. It really helps out. We're at 19 likes. We're not taking this thing off the ground until we get to at least 25 likes. 6 more likes. I'm not asking for a whole lot here. Time Man the Buckeye. I wonder who's going to send the most super chats. Ball's in your court.
Yeah. Time Man, if you want to get on screen.
Oh, Time Man, I can't say anymore. I'm broke. Luke, you are good. Don't worry, man.
Hey, Luke, me too.
Luke's a comments legend here at the channel. We're at 24 likes. There we go. Got to 27 likes. Okay. Should we get on into it? I'm excited for this first segment.
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
I'm excited as well.
We get to talk about some draft trades. They may not happen. They probably won't all happen. They definitely won't all happen. But it's still fun to talk about trades. Like, trades, I think, is the Rosetta Stone for sports.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what sport, what league you like, if it's got trades, you can jump from one league to the next when a trade goes down. Like, you can be a big NFL fan, not really care about the NBA too much, but when a trade in the NBA happens, everyone gravitates towards it.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
All of a sudden, it's moth to a light. Yeah. Everyone all of a sudden is an expert on both teams that made the trade. That's what trades are fun. They're just fun.
Everyone's got to take, like...
Oh, everyone, yeah. I think trades are super cool.
Yeah, well, it's an instant conversation starter, and it honestly, like you said, brings people that probably weren't talking a lot. They get in on the conversation because it's like an automatic, like, hey, we got to discuss this.
The other thing is the player element of the trade, where part of me, and I've never been traded, would wonder, like, that's got to sting a little bit for your team and your city where you're living to, like, ship you across the country. But to have the same level of, like, but someone else really wants me. Like, that's got to be cool to feel wanted. Yeah. Like, I was the subject of a conversation on the phone where another man really wanted me. Like, okay, that's pretty cool. I don't know. That's my TED Talk.
I can dig it.
Archangel, he's asking me to do the quarterback player comps.
Here's the thing.
He's trying to get me to fail my job again.
Well, this time you have a whole hour and a half.
I got to start thinking right now. Quarterback player comps are so much more difficult, I would say, than every other position.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think each quarterback is so unique. You can kind of put some wide receivers and running backs into similar tiers.
Right.
All right.
Especially when
I think Archangel's trying to get me fired. I think that's what's trying to go on here. He wants my job.
I'm telling you right now, Archangel, keep sending those questions in.
Okay, here we go. Let's get into some draft trade ideas for your Atlanta Falcons. On today's show, we're going to talk some draft trade ideas for the Atlanta Falcons because they could be wheeling and dealing in 2 weeks when the NFL Draft is underway. And if you're curious whether or not the Falcons could be moving up or moving back, we've got it all covered on today's show. So let's start with the first trade idea that I came across just scrolling on my phone before I went to bed one night. It was an Athletic mock draft where they had the Falcons trading from 8 to 5 with the LA Chargers. And in exchange for moving back 3 spots, the Chargers pick up Atlanta's second-round pick this year and a future mid-round pick. So from a trade value perspective, it might be a little bit on the richer side to give up a second and an additional pick to go from 8 to 5. But the Chargers said it best. I think it was Harbaugh speaking to the media. if quarterbacks go 1 through 4, the 5th overall pick is kind of like the 1st overall pick for all the other teams in the draft that aren't looking for a quarterback. And that could be worth a lot. So here's how the Athletics mock draft went down. They had Caleb Williams go 1, Drake May go 2, Jaden Daniels go 3. The Vikings trade up with the Cardinals and go J.J. McCarthy at 4. And then Atlanta calls the Chargers and goes Marvin Harrison and 5. I think that would be incredible. And I've got a but, and I'll get to it in a moment. I could see the Chargers trading back because if you think about Harbaugh, just at least at Michigan, and I know it's not apples to apples, he did not dominate at Michigan because of his elite wide receivers. He dominated at Michigan because of his offensive line. So if he plans on going offensive tackle, I mean, there's a lot of really good tackles in this draft class. I would not be surprised if the Chargers move back, pick up some more picks for round 2 and round 3, attack wide receiver there, and get maybe the same tackle they were going to get at 5 at 8. So from the Chargers standpoint, I kind of actually see this making some sense. Now the but comes in here because it is Marvin Harrison Jr. And maybe all that what I just said about the tackle position goes out the window. If the Chargers are at 5 and they have an opportunity to pair Justin Herbert with Marvin Harrison Jr. and they pass on it, that may be something where deep down inside the Chargers may want to do, but they just can't quite say yes to passing on uniting Herbert and Harrison for what could be the best quarterback wide receiver combo. And this is going to say a lot here, that franchise has ever seen. And they've had some really good quarterbacks and wide receivers. Now, does Atlanta need a wide receiver more than anything else? No, I think their signing of Darnell Mooney shows a lot of confidence in the current wide receiver makeup. Traded for Rondale Moore, but both Mooney and Moore are guys that haven't had more than 500 receiving yards the last 2 years. So I don't think they should look at this room and have an over amount of confidence that it is ready to roll, no additions needed. I'm sure they'll make some pick or two in the draft, but how early and how much they prioritize that is the question. So do you want to go wide receiver in round number 1? If that trade was truly an option for the Falcons and they could go get Marvin Harrison Jr., are we really going to say no to that? I don't think this round 2 draft class is all that mighty, so I would be very okay with parting ways from pick 43 to go up and get Kirk Cousins with Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London. I know that defense is going to have a tough time taking down the quarterback, but if they win every game 35-32, I think we'll all take that. All right, trade idea number 2. I would do the first one. Second one, this one involves Atlanta moving back. So the Falcons and the Bengals strike a deal where Cincinnati jumps 10 spots from 18 to 8, and Atlanta picks up the Bengals' 49th pick in the draft in round number 2. I cooked up this trade idea by myself because I could see the Bengals trading for trading up to get a wide receiver. It doesn't really seem like T. Higgins is going to be there for 2024. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an A.J. Brown type trade go down mid-round 1 or Marquise Brown from the Ravens to the Cardinals. So maybe the Bengals decide if we're going to move on from T. Higgins, let's give up our second-round draft pick and our 18th overall pick, go up to 8, and get Rome Odunze. And if you're Atlanta, maybe if you're not sold on getting a wide receiver or you don't think Dallas Turner is like a big hot shot in this draft, maybe you're okay with moving back 10 spots, getting a good player at 18, and picking up pick 49, having 2 seconds and 2 thirds in day 2 of the draft. So if Atlanta were to move back 10 spots and let's say the Bengals go get Rome Odunze at number 8, I think you could see some of these guys be available at 18. Not an absolute guarantee, but Leatu Latu, Jared Verse, Byron Murphy, Cooper DeJean, and Terrion Arnold. I put Arnold on there for a little bit of wishful thinking. I don't think he'll be available at 18, but you never know. It's the NFL draft. Now, I know the names that everyone watching is gravitating towards are the first 2, Latu and Verse. They may be available at 18. They may not be. No one's got a really good consensus on this entire pass rushing trio of Turner, Latu, and Verse, right? They range in where they go all the way from 7 to the Titans I've seen as early to 32 at the end of the round 1. So they could go anywhere. If I'm picking between these 2 guys, I'm going to take Jared Verse. I think Jared Verse is a much more rounded pass rusher. He's better against the run than Latu is. He wins with speed, power, strength. Latu's got a great skill set, and I'm not saying Latu can't work in the NFL, but I just got more of a gut feeling and confidence that Jared Verse, his skill set is going to translate better to the NFL. So I would pick Verse over Latu if it was one of those two at 18. Now, here's what Dane Brugler had to say on Jared Verse in his The Beast write-up. Overall, when he channels his relentless energy, Verse is disruptive as anyone in this class because of his explosive get-off, power through his frame, and NFL-quality hand use. His physical traits and competitive football temperament give him a high floor as an NFL starter, reminiscent of 8-year NFL veteran Dante Fowler. So if you had to pick an edge between Verse and Latu, who would it be? For me, Laiatu Latu, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, he just kind of gives me vibes of like college basketball stars that don't really translate well to the NBA. And I know this is quite a Colin Cowherd analogy, but the way he won at UCLA, he was kind of feasting on lesser tackles, really filling up the stat sheet. But when he went up against Oregon State's Talisi Fuanga, like, going up against an NFL-style offensive tackle, he didn't produce a whole lot. Whereas I think Jared Verse, in a direction the NFL is headed with teams having a lot of nickel defenses and asking more of their front down linemen to be run stoppers because there's not 3 linebackers standing behind them, he's better suited for that style of play. So I'll go with Jared Verse. Now, before we get on to the other trade idea I've got cooked up for you all, I want to tell you all about our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. That is daily fantasy made easy. If you're unfamiliar with Prize Picks, the #1 DFS platform in North America, let me catch you up to speed. All you have to do is select 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. So you can actually go ahead right now and make selections for season total projections, where I'm taking the more on Kirk Cousins' passing yards, a little under 4,100 yards, something up until he got injured last year he had no problem doing for a handful of seasons. Taking the less on Jalen Hurts' passing yards, 3,600 and change. He runs too much, I feel like, to get that many passing yards. And then I like the more on Saquon Barkley's rushing yards. I feel like New York didn't pay him all that money unless they had a big role planned out for him. So I'll take the more on Barkley for the Eagles, which just sounds really weird to say out loud. But if you like these selections, go ahead and download the Prize Picks app and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. The fun thing about season-long stat projections is you're not out of it after like a day or a weekend if things don't go well, right? You have something to root for all season long. So ride with me over at Prize Picks and use that code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, another player on that list of targets at 18 I really like is Byron Murphy, the Texas defensive tackle, who some say is the best defensive tackle in this draft class. For me, he's right there with Jerzon Johnny Newton out of Illinois. Now, this would be a best player available over the need type of pick. Does Atlanta need a defensive tackle? It's probably not even one of their top 3 priorities, right? I think it goes edge rusher, cornerback, and wide receiver. But if they feel like Murphy is just too good of a prospect to pass on, that maybe right now may not make a ton of sense given their needs on this roster, but they may look back at it and go, that was an overall great selection because he turned into a consistent starter and Pro Bowler for this team, then it'd be hard to be upset with this pick. Here's what Brugler wrote on Murphy. I think you guys might like it too. Murphy doesn't have ideal length, but his rare combination of lower body twitch, natural leverage, and power throughout his frame sets his apart. With his disruptive energy, both as a pass rusher and versus the run, he projects as an impact starter who can play shaded nose or 3 technique, similar to Grady Jarrett. So, a familiar face right there for Falcons fans. You know what's better than Grady Jarrett? 2 Grady Jarretts. So as he's about to turn 31 years old and comes off a torn ACL, maybe Atlanta's got 2 years left on his deal, 2024 and 2025. maybe the Falcons are thinking a little bit ahead, and it's not even so much about replacing Grady Jarrett, but probably understanding that he could use some reinforcement. So I like Murphy. I think Murphy's got a better shot of panning out in the NFL better than Leatu Latu does. So I'd probably go Verse and then Murphy if I'm power ranking those options. Now, I included Cooper DeJean and Terrion Arnold at that spot. I think Atlanta's going to go corner in day 2 of the draft. But if Arnold is unexpectedly available at 18 after this trade, he may be too good to pass on. And if Arnold's gone and Atlanta wants to go corner for whatever reason, because let's say Verse and or Latu is gone, the one they preferred is already taken, he could be a playmaking corner to keep an eye on. Plus, he has some versatilities to his game, could play safety down the road. So if you want to put him with Jesse Bates, that could be a really fun tandem as well. Trade idea number 3. Okay. This one is not initially involved the Falcons, but you'll see where I'm going with this. This is the Vikings and the Cardinals making a trade, where Minnesota goes from pick number 11 up to pick number 4 to get J.J. McCarthy. So what does this have to do with Atlanta? Well, if Arizona moves back to 11, like last year when they made that similar trade with the Texans, they maybe want to trade back up again. And maybe it's with the Atlanta Falcons. So what if after the Cardinals move back to 11, they trade back up, just like they did a year ago, up to 8, and in exchange from going from 8 to 11, the Falcons pick up the Cardinals' 90th pick in the draft in round number 3. So if Atlanta were to make this deal, they would have first, 11th overall pick, second, 3 thirds. That's a lot of ammunition for Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris to use. So let's say the Falcons drop back a few spots to 11. I think Dallas Turner could still be available. You got to think, okay, if the Cardinals are moving up to 8, they could be going after Dallas Turner. I would think they'd want to go wide receiver, though. Maybe cornerback, Terrion Arnold, but we'll put a pin in that. The Bears at 9 could go Dallas Turner. They really need help at pass rusher opposite of Montez Sweat. Or maybe they want to build around Caleb Williams and they go offensive tackle or wide receiver. So then you think about the Jets at 10. They are not going defense. They have invested so much in their defense. They're going to go Brock Bowers, in my opinion, which means you've got a very good possibility, almost actually 100% chance that Turner, Verse, and Latu are all still available for Atlanta at 11. So they could get the guy they wanted all along and a third rounder. If the guy they prefer is gone, whether it's Turner, Verse, or Latu, there are 2 really good corners I could see Atlanta going with, Terrion Arnold and Quinyon Mitchell. My preference would be Terrion Arnold. 2-year starter for Alabama, their left cornerback. He's 5'11", 189 pounds, ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. So physicality-wise, he kind of checks the box. Good size, good speed. Doesn't have elite athletic abilities, and that's probably why he's not going a little bit earlier in the draft compared to other cornerbacks we've seen in past drafts go in the top 10. But he visited with the Falcons earlier this week on a pre-draft visit, so there's some level of interest from Atlanta's side. Now, I'm more confident in Terrion Arnold panning out in the NFL than all 3 edge rushers, to be honest with you. Like, if I had to pick a guy of, hey, one of these 4 guys is going to make a Pro Bowl, I'm going to take Terrion Arnold. I think he's got a better career trajectory in the NFL, and I'm just more confident in him being a surefire thing than Turner, Verse, and Latu. It would be tough to pass on what could be a formidable starting cornerback duo for the next 8 years or so of Terrion Arnold and A.J. Terrell, Jesse Bates at safety. I understand pass rush is a dire need for this team. This franchise has never figured it out in the draft. But if they don't feel like there is a pass rusher in this draft that is their long-term solution, maybe don't force a bad pick when you can take a guy you truly believe is a Pro Bowl caliber player, and I think that's Arnold. Here's what Dane Brugler had to say on him. Arnold offers an ideal blend of cover athleticism and competitive makeup with the ball skills to make plays at every level of the field. He is scheme versatile and has the talent to work inside or outside. He can be an NFL team's number 1 cornerback, offering a skill set similar to that of Chicago Bears' Jalen Johnson. Now, I kind of go back and forth on this because you do have to have some level of drafting for needs over best player available, and that will probably trump going Terrion Arnold, where Atlanta's going to look at the day 2 crop of pass rushers and the day 2 crop of corners and think the best combination is edge first, corner second, compared to flipping it, because you're not going to find a very good edge rusher in day 2, but you can find some good corners in day 2. But if they're looking for just a no-doubter, this guy's going to work, this is going to be a starter for 5 years and then gets a second contract from us, I think Arnold is the most likely candidate of the bunch, but this team needs pass rushers badly. So I have a feeling they're probably just going to overlook all that and go, we just have to roll the dice a little bit more on one of those 3 pass rushers, go cornerback in day 2, and hope it all works out. Now, what would you do if you were Terry Fontenot? Would you take Terrion Arnold at pick number 8, pick number 11? Type D for draft, type P for pass. Let me know in the comments section. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone who takes time out of their day to watch our content. If you have not subscribed yet, I invite you to do so. Lock yourself in for the best Falcons YouTube coverage. Okay. Tiger bogeyed. Damn it. What's everyone saying? Got a lot of D's for draft. Mixed split here. D for draft. The pinned poll today was, who do you want to pick at number 8? Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Leatu Latu, or other? And Turner's got the majority, 60% votes almost. What's interesting is the other 3 candidates are all dead even at 13 to 14% of the votes. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. Someone else just removed their vote. I didn't know you could remove your vote. Jackson says ideal draft, in my opinion, would be Turner at 8 and then best cornerback at 43. Jackson, I don't disagree with that. And that's why I kind of go back and forth a little bit, because that is the ideal draft, right? Where you get both. You get a really good pass rusher and a really good corner. I just think that highly of Arnold, that he's going to pan out really well in the NFL. And I don't want the Falcons to look back and go, oh, they picked Vic Beasley over the next Jalen Ramsey. You know what I mean? We're like, why did Atlanta do that? It's like, well, if you remember at the time, the thinking was there's no good pass rushers in day 2. Got to get one now, get one later. But no one ever remembers that.
No one ever remembers.
You go back and look at previous mocks, you're like, how did that guy fall? Why didn't that team take him?
Yeah.
And the mistakes are when you pick the same position but the wrong player.
Yeah.
That's where you really screw things up.
Exactly.
But it's tough to remember well, I'm not surprised they didn't take that future Pro Bowl corner. They had 2 starting corners already.
Right, exactly.
So no one's thinking about that.
Yeah. It's one thing, if you take Leonard Fournette over Christian McCaffrey.
Yes, exactly. That's just a mistake.
Yeah, it's just a mistake.
You botched it.
Yeah.
No way to put it. Quarterbacks, this is the most, prime example of. You took Josh Rosen over... No, that was 2019. There was, I don't know who was...
Was Lamar not in that class?
No, Lamar's 2018.
Well, because I thought it was Rosen, Darnold.
No. It went Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen.
No.
Yes.
I don't think you're right on that. I think Rosen was in the class with Darnold and Baker, and I think it was Josh Allen and it was Lamar.
No, it went Baker, Darnold, Josh Allen, then Lamar.
I'm willing to bet Rosen was also in that class, I think.
Fact check it.
I'll fact check.
I don't think 5 quarterbacks were in the 2018 class. I'm pretty confident Rosen, because, oh no, I'm wrong.
It is 20.
I said Kyler then Rosen.
Yeah.
They fucking picked Kyler to replace Rosen.
Exactly.
That's partially where I got there, because I was thinking of the Cardinals.
Yeah, you were. It's all good.
That's a strike on me.
Hey, that's all good.
That's you know what that is? That's like a foul ball that just barely misses the home run. And you're like, you're not going to get that pitch down the middle again.
Yeah.
I screwed up.
I was sitting there, I was like, there's... I could be wrong on this, but I didn't think
I should have been shot in the head when I said they went Kyler Rosen in the same draft.
The only reason I remembered that is because Rosen,
Yeah.
I believe, was really good friends with Darnold at one point. Obviously they played in the same city,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember the conversation being that while Darnold was the more physically impressive athlete, Rosen, for whatever reason, they always said, threw the prettiest ball in the draft. That was his kind of went from the pocket and he threw the prettiest ball.
Now he's out of the league.
Now he's.
Okay. Let's get into Mel Kiper's 2-round mock draft. Let's see who we had Atlanta taking at 8 and 43. Ooh, got some good comments in there right now. Up to 50 likes. I was going to ask for more, but 50 is a good number. So if you haven't liked the video yet, feel free to do so, but we'll take 50. We'll take 50. This is actually, we just had a whole conversation about picking the right guy at the right position. Mm-hmm. This is a very big decision to make for Atlanta because they're going to have the first pick of all 3 edge rushers.
Yeah,
they have to make the right one. If they go edge at 8.
Yeah, barring something unforeseen, Atlanta's getting the best, in theory, defensive player in the draft.
They're taking the first defensive player.
Exactly. Barring something, again.
You're going to have 4 quarterbacks go in the top 5. All 3 wide receivers could likely be gone before pick number 8. Mm-hmm. But still, no one's going defense in the first 7. I really don't think that's happening.
Yeah, there's no point in trading up for a guy either.
Yeah.
So you would think Atlanta has to be the first one.
They've got to come out of this, I would hope, just absolute think tank they have been for the last 3 months with the right answer.
Yeah.
Who's the best pick at number 8 on defense?
Yeah, I think it's, at minimum, you got to have a guy that makes a couple Pro Bowls. That's at least the thought process of it.
Okay, here we go. Let's jump into Mel Kiper's latest 2-round mock draft. Coming up on today's show, we're going to check out Mel Kiper's brand new 2-round mock draft, see who he had Atlanta taking at pick number 8 and pick number 43, because it's a very important selection for Atlanta at pick number 8. There's a very, very good chance that the Falcons are the first team to take a defensive player, and all eyes are on Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot to make the correct selection. So here's how Mel Kiper's mock draft went. He had quarterbacks go in the top 3, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals, J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings in a trade up with the Chargers, Malik Neighbors to the Giants. I kind of foresee all this happening as well. Joe Alt to the Titans seems like a lock. And then, surprise, surprise, another mock draft where Dallas Turner is an Atlanta Falcon. And I know that it's fun to have a little bit of variety of mock drafts, but it also gives you a good idea as to where Atlanta could be headed. So we all get a little bit of extra time to start researching and prepping and learning about what seems to be the most likely pick for the Falcons in all these mock drafts, Alabama's Dallas Turner. Here's what Mel Kiper said about the selection he made. Atlanta's pass rush was abysmal last season. It ranked last in the league in pass rush win rate, 30.9%, and general manager Terry Fontenot hasn't done much to address the issues. That must mean he knows he can get help in the draft, right? The Falcons have an extra 3rd-round pick to work with, too. Turner is the most well-rounded edge rusher in this class. He had 10 sacks last season and 22.5 over 3 seasons at Alabama, and he can hold his own in the run game. So let's take a step back here and look at Dallas Turner's just profile for a moment. 6'3", 247, so not the biggest edge rusher we've ever seen come into the top 10, but incredible speed. 4.46 40-yard dash. He finished first in both the 40 and the 10-yard split for his position group. So we're talking about one of the freakiest athletes to really enter the draft this year. And that alone might be enough for Atlanta to go, yeah, Raheem Morris, defensive-minded guy, you give him a great athlete, and he'll take care of the rest. Now, he's got great athleticism, but that's true for other guys like Chop Robinson, for example, out of Penn State. He finished only a few tenths of a second behind Dallas Turner in the 40-yard dash, or hundredths of a second, actually. But he had 10 sacks last season for the Crimson Tide, 14.5 tackles for loss. He was a 3-year player for Alabama, one of the top recruits coming out. And he worked opposite of Will Anderson, who, of course, is now a Houston Texan and off to a pretty strong start in his career. So there is something to be said about when you're kind of the Robin in college, you get overlooked a little bit. And often we see those Robins get to the NFL and they become their own Batmans because they're no longer in someone else's shadow. And I think that may have what happened to Dallas Turner. But all eyes across the league are on Turner at pick number 8 to the Falcons. And I'll continue saying it. Dallas Turner is a Falcon. I'll be shell-shocked if they pass on Dallas Turner at pick number 8. So here's some more background information on Turner. Dane Brugler, in his Beast write-up, where he covers every single player in the draft, wrote, Turner is a long, explosive edge rusher with the body twitch, hand usage, and play strength to leverage blocks and be disruptive in multiple ways. He has the freaky tools to be a potential impact player in the NFL who should continue to improve as his body and rush attack mature. I think it's just got to end up being edge rusher at 8. And I think there's a very good chance that the Falcons could pass on some better players like Rome Odunze and Terrion Arnold. I think are probably better players than Dallas Turner and Jared Verse and Leata Latu. But the issue is there are some good wide receivers and corners in rounds 2 and 3 of this draft. I can't say the same for edge rusher. So they know if they want to go get edge, round 1 is the time to do it. And they're likely not going to pass on it. They just have made no real additions. When you look at Atlanta's front 5 to the pass rushing unit through free agency, they cannot trot out Ebiketie and Carter as this team starting outside linebacker duo this year. Just can't do it. Maybe they bring back Bud Dupree after the draft if they don't get the player they were hoping for. They signed James Smith-Williams from Washington. Kind of makes you think that the door kind of closed on Calais Campbell returning. Zach Harrison, 3rd-round pick last year, showed some potential towards the end of 2023. But look at the stats of the top 4 pass rushers on this team. This is not a startable group. It's frankly unacceptable. And I know they're going to make additions in the draft, so that's why I feel like whether they may like other players at pick number 8 more, but they may feel like the need outweighs the talent at other spots because they simply have to put together a respectable pass rushing unit. And this right now, it ain't it. So do you want to pick Dallas Turner? Yes or no? Like I said, I think Rome Odunze is going to have a great NFL career. I'm just more confident in other guys, and you don't want to gamble on top 10 picks. You're looking for surefire things, and I know that doesn't exist in the NFL, but it sure gets a lot harder after the top 10 than in the top 10. But I think Atlanta's going to ultimately go at edge. Now, next up on the show, we're going to look at the Falcons' round 2 selection, see who Mel Kiper had Atlanta picking at pick 43. But if they don't go Dallas Turner at 8, it's going to be on Kirk Cousins and this offense to score a lot of points. So if you want to get a Kirk Cousins Falcons jersey, go to chatsports.com/Cousins. Now, I am nicknamed in my family Day Late Dollar Short. I tend to put things off a little bit from time to time. Don't put this off. And the reason being is if you wait to get a brand new Falcons jersey closer to the fall, all of a sudden you're going to get hit with it'll be delivered in 4 to 6 weeks, and that's not fun. You don't want to go to your first game in an old jersey. So get a brand new Kirk Cousins jersey. The link is in the comments and description of today's video, chatsports.com/Cousins. Moving on to Mel Kiper's round 2 portion of the mock draft. I kind of like it. It's a little spicy. He's got Bo Nix going to the Giants at 33 in a trade up by New York. He's got the Rams trading up to 37 to get Michael Penix Jr. We get a run of wide receivers, Keon Coleman, Ricky Purcell, Ladd McConkey, cornerback TJ Tampa could be a target for the Falcons. But moving on to pick 43, he ultimately does give Atlanta a starting cornerback, or at least a competition, I should say, Kamari Lassiter out of UGA. So took him ahead of guys like Rakestraw from Mizzou, a couple wide receivers, Malachi Corley, Troy Franklin, Roman Wilson. But it is Kamari Lassiter. So let's get to know him a little bit, because I'm a big fan of the player, of the human being, I should say. 5'11", 186 pounds. Unfortunately, at his pro day in Athens, he ran a 4.64 40-yard dash. Listen, people are going to make a big deal out of different measurements and sizes and times. If there is a couple to note, it is cornerback length and speed, because it's tough to do that job well if you can't run with faster people that know where they are running to, right? You got to be faster to make up for the fact that you don't know if they're going left, right, straight, or backwards. So that is definitely a mark on him. However, from a locker room and like coachability standpoint, he's known for his high IQ. Everyone raves about him. Everywhere he goes, people are blown away. Every coach would love to have a Kamari Lassiter on their team. And from that alone, that kind of screams Raheem Morris type of player he could pursue. Now, this is what Mel Kiper had to say in his write-up. If the Falcons address their pass rush in round 1, they should take the best available cornerback in round 2. They picked off just 8 passes last season and need to add competition on the other side of A.J. Terrell. Lassiter, who has experience playing in the slot, held opposing quarterbacks to a 29% completion rate as the primary defender in coverage. That was the 7th best mark in the FBS. So while Lassiter may not stand out physically in any one point, the guy gets the job done. He's a professional get-shit-done type of player. He gave up 136 yards in coverage last year. His completion percentage, look at it, 15 out of 39 attempts targeted his way. 8 pass breakups, no interceptions, so maybe not a huge ball hawk type of player. No touchdowns allowed. The guy just has a knack for being successful. Now, can you be successful in the NFL against receivers with a 4.64 40-yard dash? That could be a problem. And that may be something that downgrades him from being a legitimate starting corner to a guy that has a long career in the NFL because every locker room wants to have a player like him. And maybe he's a demon on special teams and he's a really good CB3. Probably a little bit too early for him to be going in round 2 if that's his career trajectory. But if he's able to just win with instincts and with IQ, which is what he's done so far, and I mean, you play some really good teams in the SEC, and he's held his own against them, then there's a chance he could really push Clark Phillips and D. Alford and Mike Hughes and Hamilton and King and everyone else battling for that CB2 job that is very much up for grabs opposite of A.J. Terrell. Now, I want to share with you guys what Dane Brugler from The Athletic had to say on the Georgia Bulldog. Lassiter doesn't have elite physical traits at a position where size and speed are at a premium, but his play recognition and competitiveness are both off the charts. Although he is viewed as a nickel only by several teams, he has starting talent that is best suited for a zone match scheme. And that very well could be what Jimmy Lake tossed out onto the Falcons secondary next season. So looking back at Mel Kiper's mock draft, he went Dallas Turner at 8 and the Georgia cornerback at number 43. How would you grade these two selections? A, B, C, D, or F? Give me your letter grade down in the comments below. I'd give it a B+. I don't know if Atlanta walks away knowing, hey, we got 2 surefire things, right? They've got an extremely athletic edge rusher who had good production last year, but he needs some fine-tuning still. He's still very young as well. And then you've got a really good cornerback from Georgia who physically doesn't really impress you very much, but it's hard to get where he's gotten so far without knowing a thing or two about opposing offenses. And his IQ, I mean, everyone just speaks so highly of him that it's hard not to be like, I want to pull for that guy. I want to root for that guy. So I'll go with a B+ on both these picks. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. Reminder to subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 21,000 subscribers before the NFL Draft kicks off. We're less than 200 away, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. What's the grade? Ty Man, are you serious? Ty Man, don't be messing with me. Ty Man's talking about some other stuff. I'm doing some looks on it. Are you sure, Ty Man? I don't think so. Okay. Ty Man gives it a B+, though. Isaiah Jones gives it a B-. Archangel gives it a B. D. Coleman, B-. Ty Man, where'd you see that from?
That's
I don't see anything. I'm looking on the Twitter website. I got nothing. Robert Hall, C+, Archangel B, Tony Wright, B+, Jack, B-. I like how Jason spelled out B-. Very, very emphatic. There you go.
Starting great.
We got some questions rolling in. I like it from ATL, Minnesota. Get those questions in. The next portion of the show is a mailbag. We're still looking for our first super chat of the day. If you want to be the first super chatter and guarantee your question on screen, super chat, and we'll toss it on for all of our viewers to see. And it's a great way to support the channel. So if you enjoy the free content we provide and, you know, want to drop a little something in the tip jar, which I even hate myself for saying because this is my personal TED Talk, and I'm sorry if you work in the service industry because you probably won't like this next part here, but tipping is out of control in this country.
It's very out of control.
When they stick you the iPad with the beginning amount being 20 to 30%, it's like, okay, didn't realize we'd tip our McDonald's drive-through workers that much. It's just like, what happened to the tip was supposed to be in reward for really good service? Like, that's what 20% kind of represented. Or like 25 was like excellent. Now it's like if you don't do 25, you get dirty looks.
Yeah.
I was in Austin a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Got some pizza.
Yep.
The balls on this place, their iPad suggested tip amount 100%.
Did they actually?
Yes.
100%.
They wanted 100. I took a picture. I was floored. I was like, "Are you serious right now?"
Are you? Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah. I mean, it's just pay your employees like a reasonable.
I know. Here's the issue: is that the owners are putting the responsibility to pay their workers on the public,
on the customers. Yeah.
And if you don't do it, you're a bad person. Then, how about your boss should just pay you a little bit more, and I'll tip you if you kind of go above and beyond. Yeah. Like, here's my you want a free life hack here?
Go for it.
I find myself in this spot every so often. If you're at a sports bar and you want to put your specific game on a TV and it's not on, I will pre-tip my server to change the TV to my channel because they're going to get it done in 3 minutes. Yeah, and then I'll watch my game. And I'll give the same amount of the tip at the very end of the meal, most likely. Probably a little bit more now because they're kind of scratching my back. Yeah. But I get my game on ASAP. Yeah. You are the king of the castle. If you slip your waiter like $20 and go, can you please put that game on this TV? And you're good to go. Game's on. And they love you. They'll wait on you first. It's the way to do it.
So I used to be a waiter and a bartender. So I got both ends of the stick on that. And it's so true.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. Well, now you know.
I know.
But yeah, anytime, because again, I mean, you always try to treat people really well. But the people that, like, a guy sits down, like you said, slips you a little 20 or something, or even a 10 or a 5. It's just like, hey, can we get so or so? I'm making sure that's getting done. Like, I don't care what I'm doing at that current moment. I'm going to make sure I'm going to get that done. So, yeah. Bottom line is, companies just pay your staff so that they don't have to. That iPad thing, it's so bad whenever it's like places that didn't used to require tip.
What happens is it got installed from COVID to support local restaurants, and that was cool, and that was great, and I love doing that.
Right.
But we got to graduate from it.
We do.
We can't just continue on this path.
Yeah. We also need to have Walmarts open 24/7 again. I miss that so much.
Yeah. Ty, man, Zadarius Smith signed that 2-year, $23 million deal with the Browns in like March. So I'm not really sure what this is. Okay, someone said, PD, will you remember my question? ATL, as long as you put hashtag Falcons, can we make sure ATL's question, ATL Minnesota, ATL MN, gets in the mailbag? Because they've been peppering the chat. All right, we do a mailbag next up on the show, so get those questions in. I think we lost some viewers with our tipping methods. There's probably a lot of service members walking. They're like, fuck you.
I support tipping, but...
Support the troops?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's get into a mailbag. So, hashtag Falcons or Super Chat.
Yeah, I mean, you guys want to get in on the show, guaranteed.
Yeah.
PD will make sure we try to take care of you. I'll try to make sure I pick out the best questions. You want to guarantee yourself to be on the show? Super Chat.
Super Chat. Greatly appreciated.
Yes, we will take whatever we can get. So.
Okay. Take a swig of water. And then let's get into an Atlanta Falcons mailbag, baby. I'm ready whenever you are, Mr. Cullen. All right, here we go. Welcome on into a mailbag here at Falcons Today. It's from our live show, which aired on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. First question comes in from Lenny Sutton. Sign Cam Newton to back up Kirk Cousins. I don't know if you saw what Cam Newton had to say about the contract Kirk Cousins got. Wasn't necessarily a ringing endorsement that made it feel like those two would get along super well. But listen, I think Cam Newton is just washed. That's just simply the easiest way to put it. And it's a little bit unfortunate because he played through some injuries that maybe he shouldn't have. And he had a really good career with a very rugged play style of tossing his huge body into linemen on the defensive line. And he got a lot of touchdowns out of it, but he got a lot of injuries as a result as well. No. Am I over the moon about Taylor Heinicke? Not really. I think a more likely scenario for an addition to the quarterback room would be Atlanta drafting a quarterback in day 3 of the draft. I don't think they'll go quarterback in days 1 or 2, but I don't think Cam Newton is what you're looking for to back up Kirk Cousins. I'll turn it over to you guys. Would you want Cam, right, Georgia guy, to sign to back up Kirk? Yes or no? It sounds fun. It would sell a jersey or two, but I would say no. I would pass on this. Ethan Greer with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Ethan. Trade back with the Bills. Get Russo as well. What is Russo? Do we have any idea what Russo is? Ethan, you got to help me out here. I don't really know what Russo is, so I'll put a pin in that part of it. I'm trying to think on the fly what that could mean. But trading back with the Bills, Buffalo's at 28. For them to go 28-8 to jump 20 spots, they would have to surrender their second-round pick this year. They don't have a second-rounder next year. Or they have 2 second-rounders next year, sorry, because of the Stephon Diggs trade. That's a big fallback, and I don't think Atlanta is likely in a spot where they want to fall back 20 spots. So I would actually say no to this. I'd rather stay at 8, maybe move back a couple spots. What's Russo? Gregory Russo. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. I thought you had Russ with a typo. That was my brain. Yeah, solid defensive end. I don't think Buffalo would do that, though. But, I mean, maybe if they wanted to go get Dallas Turner or someone, although I'd rather just stay at 8. ATL, Minnesota. If the Vikings trade up to number 4, is there a chance the Falcons trade up with the Chargers for Marvin Harrison? I mean, in this situation that ATL, Minnesota points out, the Chargers' 5th overall pick kind of becomes the 1st overall pick in a way because you're going to see quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4. So the draft for every team not picking a quarterback starts at 5. And it'd be tempting as hell to not want to go up and get Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 5, put him with Kirk Cousins. And, I mean, you may not stop a lot of offenses, but you're going to score a lot of points with Drake London, Kirk Cousins, Marvin Harrison, Bijan, Kyle Pitts. And I think the Chargers are more open to trading back than the public believes. I know they need a wide receiver really badly, but did Harbaugh dominate at Michigan or even San Francisco with elite wide receivers? No. He won in the trenches. So he may be very open to moving back a few spots, getting a tackle, acquiring Atlanta's 43rd overall pick, and picking a wide receiver then. So if this was an option, I would do it in a heartbeat. Dat one Falcons fan. Trade proposal. Atlanta receives 11 and 23. Minnesota receives 8, 43, 79, and a 2024 second. Atlanta drafts Turner at 11, Kool-Aid McKinstry at 23. Is this a good trade for the team? Let me know your thoughts. I think you actually might be giving the Vikings too much. I do see you have the right train of thought about if you go from 8 to 11, well, the Vikings don't have a second rounder to give you for falling back. And they're not going to give you 11 and 23 for 8. That's a massive overpay. So you got to give them something back to get 23, which would be 43. But I don't think you have to give up 79 and a second. I think if you were looking for a fair trade, it would be 8 and 43 for 11 and 23. And maybe a future third, not a second. And if you do make that trade, Turner at 11, Kool-Aid at 23, that would be pretty fun. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is a really like Swiss knife type of player. If you could get Quinyon Mitchell, I doubt he'd be available at 23. That would be my preferred selection, but good chance he's gone anyway. So I would not be opposed to that trade, though. Next question. What are the thoughts on a defense-only draft? Who was it a few years ago that went defense with their first, 6 picks in the draft? I'm trying to remember. It was a new head coach that took over. I almost want to say it was the Dolphins with Brian Flores. I could have that wrong. Maybe you're going to fact check me here, Colin. But what are my thoughts? I don't think it's a great idea. You should probably allocate some resources to offense. Try to look at draft picks like shoot bucks from the offense, right? It's a currency. It's what GMs use to pay. And putting all of your money in one stock. What do your investors say? Financial investors say, like, diversify your portfolio. You should probably go offense a little bit. So I don't hate the idea, but I would caution against it. I think you'd want to add to some depth points on your offense, like wide receiver, an offensive tackle, tight end. Those are spots that come to mind that you maybe want to water some of those plants. All right. Someone went all defense, and this was like 6 years ago. It's driving me nuts. I need someone in the chat, in the comments, to tell me. But before we do, I do want to share with you guys some information about our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. That is the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America, where all you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. So if you want to get involved with some NBA, NHL, MLB, feel free to knock yourself out. It's a great way to have some extra fun if you're going to the ball game or if you're going to a basketball game. I'm going to go ahead and lock in some season-long stat projections for the NFL year, taking them more on Kirk Cousins' passing yards. I really like these two a lot, though. Jalen Hurts, I've low-key never been super-duper high on him to begin with. Kind of like the less because he runs as well for his passing yards. And then I like the more on Saquon Barkley's rushing yards at a little over 1,000. Do the Eagles give him all that money just to put him on the bench? No, they're going to force feed him the rock. So if you like my selections, I invite you to tag along. Go ahead and use code CLNS after you download the Prize Picks app to get a deposit match up to $100. Now, I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Archangel, next question. Sleepers that we should have our eyes on in the later rounds. Really good question, Archangel. Not trying to get me fired today like you were last week with a tough one. Okay, let's start with round 4. That's kind of a fun round to find a sleeper. The first day of day 3, or the first round of day 3 of the draft. I think you might see Atlanta go offensive tackle. Yale has a really good left tackle. Karane Armaganji. I probably got that wrong a little bit, but very glowing reviews coming out of Yale surrounding their left tackle. Karan Armaganji. That could be a sleeper to watch for. I don't think this next player I'm going to say is going to go as high as other people are projecting him, but I think he's going to make a really good 3rd round pick. Malachi Corley. He went to Western Kentucky. He's the yak monster. He does one thing, and he does that one thing very well. Yards after catch. He could be kind of another Deebo Samuel, if you will. Those are 2 names that come to mind. On the defensive side of the football, not really crazy about any of the edge rushers as you get past the top few, so nothing that stands out to me there. Corners, I don't really have any high day 3 cornerback grades. From a linebacker perspective, what about Peyton Wilson from NC State? Mixed reviews on where he could go in the draft, and I don't think Atlanta needs a linebacker, but I would give you the first 2 names as spots Atlanta could target. Leaf Yapel, what is your worst-case scenario for the draft where the next stream you are here saying the sky is falling? I like this question. Worst-case scenario for the draft would be at pick number 8, because I think it's hard to have a worst-case scenario if you trade back because you get more picks then. And that's always going to smooth over maybe a potential bad pick after a trade back. Worst case scenario at pick number 8, man, I think it would be quarterback, to be frankly honest with you. Like, I don't want to see Atlanta go quarterback in round 1 or round 2. And the reason being is you gave Kirk Cousins guaranteed money for 2 years. You're not moving on from Kirk after 2024 or after 2025. So even if you're ready to have him handed over to someone, that someone's going to be sitting for 2 years, maybe even 3 years. They're going to have almost all their rookie contract wasted. I understand having a quarterback behind Kirk to develop. I don't think this is the year to do it. I think next year would be a much more appropriate time. So if they went quarterback at 8, I would throw up violently, projectile, and I would say at 43, I don't think this is me just being mean to Chop Robinson. I think he's too athletically gifted to say that would be a disaster. I would say at pick 43, I will go with, I don't want to be mean because any prospect I say is like, what the hell, dude? But I don't think it'd be a good fit for Atlanta to go get Xavier Legette. And I say that because I think he's a receiver that needs to go somewhere where he can actually sit for a year and learn the position and develop, because he only had 1 year as a starter at South Carolina. That's not going to be a good spot for him in Atlanta to do so. So you're going to take a guy that needs to develop, that you're going to thrust into a starting role after wasting pick number 8. That would be my worst case scenario. Isaiah Jones, how likely the Falcons win the division the next 4 years? Like a clean sweep for the next 4 years? That's pretty tough to do. Only like the Chiefs and the Patriots have really, what are the teams have won 4 straight division titles in the last 10 years? New England, Kansas City. I don't even know if Green Bay's done it, because Minnesota, the Bears won in 2018, the Vikings in 2022, NFC West, the 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks have all alternated. NFC East is someone different every single year. We did the AFC East. AFC North, no one's won it 3 straight years in the entire history of that division. AFC South is kind of a revolving door. Maybe the Titans have done 4 years with Vrabel. So I think the Titans have won 4 in a row with Vrabes. How likely? It's not like there's Murderer's Row in Tampa, Carolina, and New Orleans. So if Kirk dominates, he could feast in a bad division. I would say it's like a 30% chance, though. Junior Riv, do you think Joe Milton or Spencer Rattler is a good pick at round 4 or 5? So I don't know if you guys know a little thing about me or two, but I'm going to be very biased here and say Joe Milton. One, I can't stand Spencer Rattler. From a personal, like a personality standpoint, for me, ever since watching that show on Netflix, QB1, I felt like he was such a prick in that show, and I'm sure he's grown and developed, and it's unfair of me to say that because I never actually met him in person, but if you're going to ask me my pick between the two, I'll go with Joe Milton, an absolute rocket of an arm that, yes, had some accuracy issues at Michigan and then Tennessee, but as someone that watched every single snap of Tennessee football last year, his wide receivers were dog water. You give them actual NFL talent, and they're not going to drop passes or just not run routes correctly, because every once in a while, they would just stop running the route. Like, there are things Joe has to work on, but I'll take Joe Milton over Spencer Rattler. Diego, what do you think about going best player available first round and trading and taking Mohamed Kamara or Jonah Ellis later? If it's best player available at pick number 8, that to me would be like a Rome Odunze pick, and I would really like that. I think Rome Odunze is going to be a phenomenal wide receiver. And I know Atlanta's got bigger needs on the defensive line, but I don't think anyone's going to be upset in a few years when they look back and they see where Rome Odunze in his career is and where like Dallas Turner may be. But ultimately, I think Atlanta's going to go defensive end, edge rusher, because they are just so bad at that spot right now. So what do I think of it? I think it's a great idea. Like, it's not going to happen in my eyes, but I don't hate the idea. Kamara from Colorado State, extremely productive player last year for the Rams. The issue is when you're a 5th-year guy, 4th or 5th-year player, 24 years old, in a group of 5 conference and you're just picking on 18 and 19-year-old offensive linemen, you may have some issues when you get to the NFL and your week 1 starting tackle in front of you is 29 or 30 years old and he's not some 19-year-old that you bullied when you played Air Force. Sorry to the troops. So I like Ellis more. He's a little bit younger, and you can get both Ellis brothers on one team. Like that's got to have some like they're gonna be a little bit stronger. Like they're gonna play harder for one another. So I'd go with Ellis. I'm a big fan of his coming out of Utah. Jackson, what's up, dude? What do you think of Kalen Bullock out of USC? I feel like I probably should do a little bit more on our safeties in this draft class because Richie Grant is on thin ice right now. DeMarco Helms is this team's starting safety, and I thought Helms played really well last preseason and towards the end of last year. I feel like Atlanta's probably got a level of confidence I'm looking for is the word I'm trying to think of, in Helms to be a starter and Grant to be a really good backup piece for Atlanta. And they probably don't go safety until round 4 or 5 of the draft. Next question coming up here, Jason Greenway. Do you pass if one of the top 3 receivers is there? CLNS. Prize Picks likes you. I'm telling you guys, like I think Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze are better prospects, like better football players than all 3 edge rushers. So it's going to be really tough to swallow that pill of like, we're not taking the best guy because our defense needs more help. And that's a tough decision to make. It's not a spot I would strive to be in. But if I was in that spot, I'd take Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors and run. And yes, your defense is not going to be any better than it was. It's going to be worse than it was last year. And last year I felt like it was like a C to C minus, C defense, average-ish, and it's going to be worse, but you're going to thank yourself later down the road when you've got Rome Odunze and Drake London for years to come. It's what Atlanta wanted to see out of like you kind of had that from like Roddy White passing the torch to Julio Jones and then getting Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley together. You're going to get all that type of like dream the Falcons had, but both of them at a much younger age. All right, that will do it for us on our mailbag today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone who takes time out of their day to watch our content. If you have not subscribed yet, I invite you to do so. Lock yourself in for the best free Falcons content out there. Archangel, my man, with a $1.50 super chat, a hot dog with ketchup. What do you get on your hot dog, Colin? Go.
Oh.
Dream, like simplistic version, like if you're at a ball game and you go to the little concession stand area, and if you're doing a gourmet hot dog.
Okay. I like that question. If
Thank
I'm doing
you.
just like a regular hot dog, I mean, ketchup and mustard, safe.
I just do ketchup.
That's fair.
I don't like mustard at all.
That's fair. You're not a mustard. You're a honey mustard guy, not a
I like honey mustard.
but
Yeah.
not a mustard.
But not a hot dog. That'd be weird.
I'm not gonna lie. Gourmet hot dog. So I've never had a Chicago style. So
Okay.
You're clearly gonna know respect on that one. It's like the hot dog with like sauerkraut and Thousand Island.
Yeah. A
That's
little bit like
probably my
a little bit of a German bratwurst
Yes,
kind of deal.
yes.
See, I like a good like fried onions, bacon, and cheese on a gourmet hot dog.
Okay.
A little barbecue sauce.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. I respect that.
Yeah, that's the go-to gourmet hot dog.
Also, during the mailbag, the question you were asking the team, somebody said in the chat it was Carolina. Don't know how accurate it was. Savage Falcon, I think, was the guy who tweeted it. You were asking like who was the team that drafted like all defense in the draft or something like that.
Oh, did the Panthers, when they got Matt Rule, go straight defense?
They may have. I don't know. That's what was said in the chat. I couldn't find anything. I'll let you look at it.
Let me look. Panthers draft history. I don't feel like it was Carolina. It could have been. Yeah. Mr. Smitty, what can we do for you, buddy? Oh, no. We're wrapping up here. The Panthers. Yeah, this guy got it.
Savage Falcon.
Yes, in 2020. They went all defense. That's it.
Yep. Shout out to Savage Falcon.
Bingo. That's the one I was thinking. I think that was the one I was thinking of. what a draft. And by the way, some good picks. Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn.
Yep.
He just got paid. He's a really good DT. He had the most tackles any defensive tackle's ever had in football history. Yetur Gross-Matos, he kind of stinks. So that wasn't a great pick. That was their 38th overall pick. Jeremy Chin out of Southern Illinois. He had a really good start to his career. Kind of tailed off towards the end of his time in Carolina. He's now with Dan Quinn in Washington.
Yep.
Everyone else kind of sucks. Sorry.
I remember, because Chin had, I think it was 2 pick sixes in a row or something like that, where he had 2 really big plays.
Yeah.
Back-to-back weeks, and then, just tailed off.
Okay. We got to sign off. We just got Smitty. I don't know
what to do with that.
They want the studio space. We're in one of the nicer studios. We invaded Studio B today.
Yeah.
Usually we're in F. That's my homeland. It's a little more cozier. I took the big one today, and evidently someone wants it for later. And he just came in with no speaking with his chest abilities. Are you guys gonna be done sometime soon?
Kind of hey, can you please?
Yeah. It's can you please stop sleeping with my girlfriend? That's what he kind of said. That's how I took it. Okay. All right. We're gonna sign off. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we will see you all later with more Falcons content.